Good morning. I hope everyone is doing well. What we're going to look at today is Pythagorean identities. You've actually seen this before in methods. So what we have is a unit circle, so a circle of radius 1. We're going to focus specifically on our right angle triangle. So if we look at our right angle triangle, we have cos of theta equals x because that's adjacent versus hypotenuse, so the hypotenuse is 1. Our sine of theta is y because that's opposite versus hypotenuse. And since we've got a right angle triangle, we can apply Pythagoras' theorem from year 9. So Pythag theorem says that the sum of the other two sides squared, so x squared plus y squared, is equal to the hypotenuse squared, which is 1 squared, which is also 1. So we substitute in our x for cosine and y for sine, we get the Pythag identity that sine squared theta plus cos squared theta equals 1. Now note that for notation, sine squared theta implies you square sine of theta. And that's in contrast to sine of theta squared. So sine squared theta means we sine theta first and then we square that result. Now let's have a look at example 24. It says here that if sine of an angle A is 0.4 and A is in quadrant 1 between 0 and pi on 2, we need to work out what cos of A is to 3 decimal places. So we can use our Pythagorean identity. So using Pythagorean identity, namely sine squared of the angle plus cos squared of that same angle equals 1. Then we can replace sine of A as 0.4. In other words, 0.4 squared plus cos squared of A equals 1. Rearranging, cos squared of A is 1 minus 0.4 squared. You can use a calculator to work out that cos squared of A is 0.84. So in other words, rearranging cos of A, opposite of squaring is square rooting, but we do plus minus. So square root of 0.84. Using a calculator, it says to 3 decimal places, we get plus or minus 0.917. Now we've got to look at our domain, but since our domain of A has to be in the first quadrant, right? Namely, if we do our CAST, so CAST, if our angle A has to be in the first quadrant, then cosine has to be positive in the first quadrant. So if A is between 0 and pi on 2, then cos of A must be positive because it's in the A quadrant. So in other words, therefore, cos of A is positive 0.197 to 3 decimal places.